Okay, let's begin. We are on Daf Yud Zayin Amud Aleph. We are on page 17a. And
What happened?
let me mute everyone. And we've learned about the brachas that were added on the fast days, specifically the last 7 fast days. We spoke about altogether there were 13 fast days that the community had to fast. First, a group of 3, a second group of 3, and then a final group of 7. The final 7 were more strict, and there were a certain ceremony that was done, and we would add an extra 6 brachas and also expand one of the regular brachas of the 18 and add to that. So there was an addition to basically 7 brachas. And these brachos, the Gemara or the Mishnah mentioned that there was also a Tekiah shofar, there was blowing of the shofar, and it was done a whole ceremony, there was a whole procedure how it was done. And our Gemara that we learned yesterday, it mentions a question over here. It asks a question about the order of those brachas, because chronologically it didn't seem to fit. Yoina, who was somewhere around the same time as Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu during the time of Achav, Yoina was around that time period, and he was obviously much later than David and Shlomo were the original, kings. It was much later. So why is Yoina mentioned before the others? Gemara answered that Yoina, chronologically, maybe should have been mentioned. If we went according to the chronological order, it's true. Maybe he should have been mentioned later. But we specifically want to end with mentioning that Hashem is merachem al haaretz. Hashem has mercifulness on earth. And that is somehow more connected to David and Shlomo, and therefore it's part of the bracha of David and Shlomo. And because of that, we mention Yoina out of chronological order. So, and then we discussed ourselves a little about Eliyahu. Seems to be that he was also, why we're mentioning him and not in chronological order. So we had an answer that Pinchas is really Eliyahu, so maybe he was in chronological order because he's before the David and Shlomo according to his original reincarnation. Or the Gemara's answer seems to answer as well for Eliyahu. But that was the question that was dealing with that order. Then we also mentioned that Sumcha says that there was a different ending. The ending was Mashbil Haramim, who humbles the exalted ones. Then the Gemara jumped to the next part of the Mishnah, which has to do with drinking wine. And our Gemara, the truth is, we're going to start with this Gemara again. I think we tried to start, but we didn't really get too far yesterday because the bell rang. But we'll start again from the beginning of this. But the Gemara is going to deal with the fact that the Beis Hamikdash could be built in an immediate. Hashem could bring the Beis Hamikdash in an instant, so to speak, and we need Koyanim to be ready to serve in the temple. And would our Koyanim allowed to drink wine nowadays? Does anyone hear a Koyan? Oh, this is a challenging Gemara, Mordechai, today. We might prohibit you from drinking wine. Be ready. Stay tuned. So the Gemara that we're on we're on 17a. 17a, the two dots, and the two dots that are, let's see, it must be about 13 lines from the top. Say about 13 lines from the top. If you're in the art scroll, 17a1, the end of the page, 17a1, the last two paragraphs of the page. Shalish Taanis Rishonis Anshe Mishma Masanim V'Lemashlimin. So the Gemara quotes the beginning of this section of the Mishnah, which talked about the three fasts, which groups of the Kayanim, had to fast, and which ones fasted the whole day or partial day. Now the Gemara says, Tanu Rabbanon, the rabbis learned. If Nema Amru, why did they say Anshe Mishmar Mutarin L'Shtais Yayin? The people of the Mishmar, which are people on standby, they are allowed to drink wine baleilais at the night, avalei b'yamim, but not the day. Which means the Mishmar had a group of people that were divided either into 6 days or 7 days. The argument in the commentary is how much they were divided. Were they divided into 6 or 7? In other words, was Shabbos also divided, or was that more of a the general? Was that like a permit for the entire group to serve on Shabbos? But either way, they were divided into 6 or 7 groups, and each group had their day. And the rest of the people that were not that day, they would be on standby. They're called the Anshe Mishmar. Now, the service began in the morning. After they brought all the sacrifices that day, they would bring the communal sheep, which is the Esakeves, the Esakeves Hasheni Taseh Bein Ha'arbayim, and the second lamb they would bring between the evenings, so to speak. In other words, as the last sacrifice of the day, they would bring that second lamb. And all the other sacrifices had to already be sacrificed, had to already be slaughtered. And now the thing is that even though everything was already done and the blood was sprinkled, but it did take time till they took time till they would put on all the fats and all the limbs that had to be brought on the altar. Not always was there room. So things took time, and there was work to do, not only during the day, but even after the day was over, they would bring these fats and limbs at night. In fact, in the Gemara Brachas, we learned that part of our Ma'ariv service is that according to one opinion, our Ma'ariv service is in place commemorating the fats that were brought at night that didn't have time to be brought by day. Those fats were brought at night. Because of that, there is reason to make a service, which is called Ma'ariv, commemorating those fats, those limbs that were brought on the Mizbeach, on the altar at night to burn. So who did all the who had to do all that work? The Kohanim, the priests, the people from the children of Aaron. Now, what happens if they needed more help? So they would call people that were on standby that week. They were part of the Mishmar, the watch of that week. They might not have been that day's Mishmar, because that day's they had all those people and they weren't enough. So they would call people that were not that day's, that were a different day, but that week people, that week. And basically people would travel to the Beis HaMikdash from, Tiberia, let's say. They lived in Tiberias. They would go, this is my week. We got to head to Yerushalayim to do the service. The Kohanim, they would get together and And then this is our week. We got to go. And what day was their day? Well, could be that guy's day was Wednesday, but Tuesday they needed help. So he would join on Tuesday if they needed help. He's on standby. Now, the thing is that the kainim that were doing the work that day, they would not be allowed to drink wine, of course, because we know it's a prohibition in the Torah to be drunk and do the service. And that's one of the lessons that was taught from the story of Nadav and Avihu, the sons of Aaron, who brought a inappropriate sacrifice. And according to one opinion in the Gemara, Shasuya Yayin Nichnasu LaMigdash, they entered the Beis HaMikdash drunk. So basically, you're not allowed to drink. You're not allowed to be drunk. So the people whose service was that day, they weren't allowed to be drunk. They weren't allowed to drink even at night. Even at night, of course, there's still things going on at night. What about the other people that are on standby? People on standby, they couldn't drink by day. But at night, meaning the night after that day, they would be allowed to drink because it's already known how much work is needed for the night. Probably not too much because they get most of it done by day. And they will also evaluate by day how much they're going to need, if they're going to need anyone from the standby people to help them. But there's no sacrifices brought at night. So it's not adding to the load. Once the night comes, once the night kicks in, there's no more sacrifices that are adding up and causing more pressure, causing more stress, more work to be done. It's just getting done the previous work that was by day. They now have to burn those limbs and fats on the altar. So that they could, number one, evaluate by day. Number two, there's not going to be more, nothing new is coming. So therefore, the people who are on standby, they would be allowed to drink wine at night as long as they weren't told, we need you at night or something. As long as they weren't told that, but by day they would be allowed to drink wine at night. So that's what our Gemara here says. Again, we're bringing a brisa. We brought a brisa. We said, why did they say that the Anshe Mishmar, that the people that are on standby, they're the week people of that week. They're not that day's workers, but that week's workers. They're allowed to drink wine at night, but not by day. So the Gemara and the brisa answers Shema Tichbara Avoida Al Anshe Beso, because they're not allowed to drink wine by day because we're afraid maybe it'll be too heavy. Tichbad is kaved. It'll be too heavy, the avoida, the work, for the people whose work it was that day, Anshe Beisav, which is the people who were performing the work that day was their responsibility. And if there's too much work, these people who are on standby, they will come, and they will help and assist those that were this day's workers. They'll assist them. And why the people of the Beisav, the people whose work it was that day, they cannot drink wine, not by day and not by night. Why can't they drink at night? Because they're constantly busy doing the service, even at night. Mikan Amru. So here the Brisa says this powerful statement. From here, they said, Kol Koyen, any Koyen Shemakir Mishmartoi, that recognizes his week's watch. Mishmartoi is from the word shomer, his watch. He's part of that week's watch. If he knows which watch he's in, which watch he's part of, there were 24 of them. They were divided into 24 groups. So any kind that knows which watch is his watch, Mishmeres Beisav, and he knows which watch is the daily watch. In other words, he knows he is the Monday of this week's work. So as long as he knows those things, and he also knows that his group is established over there, meaning that they've already been checked out and they're acceptable. They're kosher. In other words, they're lineage has been looked into, and they know that they're part of the they're acceptable. They haven't been disqualified. See what happened. What would happen is that the Kohanim had a group of investigators that would investigate and make sure that everyone is acceptable and not disqualified. Of course, if a Kohen was disqualified from doing the work and they had him doing the work, it could mess things up with the sacrifices. So they would have some type of FBI working on making sure that everyone is acceptable. All these Kohanim are kosher, and they've checked out their lineage, and none of the Kohanes married a divorcee or someone who's not allowed to be, someone who's called a Zayna, like someone non-Jewish Zayna or a Halala. No, the Kohen married a woman that was born from someone who wasn't allowed to be married to a Kohen. So basically, they did their research on the people to make sure that the service in the temple is not going to be disqualified. So that's the meaning of this rule, that they also know that they are established and acceptable to do the service. They have been what's it called, bonded or looked in, certified. They're certified. So Aser Lishtais Yayin Koloisei Hayom. So any Kohen that knows what day is his, he can't drink wine any day, all of that day, because the Beis Hamikdash might be rebuilt any second, and he will have to do the service. This means even in the time that there's no Beis Hamikdash, but the schedule is still going on, and we got to make sure that he's ready. Maybe the Beis Hamikdash will be built. Now, how long does it take for the Beis Hamikdash to be built? And how long does it take for wine to dissipate? I mean, to wear off? How long? So I think it says it takes what is it? A meal, maybe 18 minutes or 24 minutes. I think it says that's how long it takes wine. If you drink only 4 ounces or something, 4 revias, is like right. I think it takes it's a very time, but the Beis Hamikdash could be built in that amount of time. Obviously, within 24 minutes, there's 18 minutes according to, it could be built within that time, and you'll need to already do the service, already bring the sacrifices. So therefore, we need to always be ready according to this opinion. And if you know what day is yours, you don't drink wine on that day. Yes, Mordechai.
Yeah, a Kohen also can't marry a chalutza. And
right.
when I was in going for shidduchim, it was once almost set up with a girl who was a chalutza.
Really?
And that for a girl in her 20s to be a chalutza is very rare.
Rare, yeah. Oh boy, wow. Yeah, I remember someone was telling me that she was set up. Her mother was a Giyores, was a convert, and I think she was pregnant with this girl while she was converted. And I think the halacha is that girl is not allowed to marry a kohen, even though the girl is not called really a Giyores convert. But I think a kohen's not allowed to marry her. So I think they're telling me that they were set up with so it gets they have to really look into things to make sure So anyway, the Gemara here is telling us about this is a very powerful Gemara, how fast we have to be ready for the Beis Hamikdash. Could be built in just the blink of an eye. So the Gemara then, the Brisa continues and says, "B'makir mishmarta." If someone recognizes his watch, ve'ein makir mishmeres beis av shaloi, but he doesn't know which day of the week, He just knows the week. So in other words, I'm always the 15th week. I'm the 15th Mishmar, and he knows the name of it. So he always, but he doesn't know what day of the week. He's not sure which family of in other words, the day that he's part of. It could be a Monday, it could be a Thursday, it could be a Sunday or Wednesday. He doesn't know what day is he's supposed to do, but he does know he does know that whichever one he's part of, they've checked into his whole group, and they've been certified that they're kayanim, kosher kayanim. So Asur Lishtais Yayin Kol Isa Shabbos. They're not allowed to drink wine. This guy is not allowed to drink wine the whole week because he doesn't know what day is his. And Mashiach will come. Beis Hamikdash will be built. He's going to say, you today, this is your week. So that whole week, he's not allowed to drink wine because this day might be his day, if it's during that week. So he's not allowed to drink wine the whole week. What about Einoi Makir Mishmartoi? He doesn't know which watch is his from the 24 watches, and he doesn't recognize the Mishmaris Beis Avshaloi. He doesn't know which day of the week is his either. But he does know that his family, his Beis Av, has been established and certified. So also Lishtais Yayin Kol Hashana. Now he can't drink wine all year round. Never drink wine. Why? Because Beis Hamikdash will be built. They're going to tell him, today is your day. It's your week and your day. He doesn't know which week is his or which day. They might tell him that's it. So he's got to be ready. Yes, David.
What about vodka or other drinks?
Any intoxication
right.
is a problem. I don't know of any heter. I know, right? It's when it comes to the 9 days, the prohibition is only wine, but that has to do with things wine draws people to drink more and more. A shot of whiskey, or it's not like drawing people to drink more and more. Wine is much more of a partying type of thing. So therefore, wine is against the elements of the 9 days. But when it comes to the service in the Beis Hamikdash, I believe it's connected to the fact that it's just simply not honorable to be drunk in the Beis Hamikdash. We could look it up, but as far as I know, there would be no heter to drink anything besides wine. I don't know. Maybe Mordechai, who's a kohen, has more about this. But
doesn't it say yayin v'shecha al tesh?
Yeah, but
doesn't shecha cover all that other stuff?
I don't think so. Shechar it's really two types of wine. I think shechar means little. According to the literal translation, I think it means old wine. So we call shechar beer, but that's not the
you can
biblical.
darshan shikul from it.
Maybe. So that's why I'm saying maybe we should look it up. But I'm not. I don't want to say for sure, but I think it would apply to all drinks. The problem is being drunk, not what you drank, but simply being drunk. If I'm not mistaken, but again, we could look it up. So what is that?
Yeah,
yes,
on Sukkot, when I was upstate, there's there's a Satmar colony across the road, and they didn't have a Kohen, and so they sent somebody over to see if they could get a Kohen, and I had already made Kiddush or Mashkin, the sukkah of my development, Fortunately, there was like a couple of Bacharim who hadn't made Kiddush yet, so they were able to go over there and talk.
So you made Kiddush on Mashka? Oh boy. All right. So anyway, so let's just see here. The Rambam over here. Let's see if we can find it. Priestly blessings here. So I'm just pulling it up on Safaria here. That not so not so easy to see here. What's keep going here? Let's see. See, the Safaria puts it together with the laws of with the other laws. I don't have an index here. I mean, I'll take a look after, I guess. I want to keep everyone waiting. So anyway, the Gemara here says this brisa, and now it mentions another opinion. Rebbe says, Omer ani, I say, Aser lishtes yayin li'olam. Even someone who knows which mishmar he is, he should not be able to drink wine ever. Because if we're worried about the fact that the Beis Hamikdash will be built, so it could be that the order of the order will also change. Maybe the Seder HaMishmares, Rashi says, will be Mishtana, will change. So I'm always the 13th Mishmar. That was the previous calculation. Mashiach comes, we're going to start everything fresh. Maybe I'll be part of a new. And maybe everyone's going to be needed for the inauguration. Can you imagine what's going to happen by the inauguration? This rich person is going to say, I'm going to bring 1,000 sacrifices. And that poor person is going to say, I'm going to bring 20 sacrifices. I'm going to, and people are just going to be going. It's going to be crazy how many sacrifices people are going to bring. So everyone's going to be needed. The time of the Chanukas, I want to do part of the inauguration. So Rashi says maybe everyone's going to do the service for the Chanukas Habayis Bavas Achas at the same time, and it'll come out that this person needs to do the service. But Rebbe says, so on the one hand, you shouldn't drink wine at all. No kohen should ever drink wine. Aval ma'aseh, but what should I do? This is a very interesting and a little scary line, that two words that Rebbe says. What should I do? Shetakonosoi kalkolosoi. The solution is the fact that we've had this disruption for so long, that the fact that it's been ruined, that is the solution. That it's been destroyed for so many years, we don't have to be concerned that the Beis Hamikdash will be built now in a second. On the one hand, we're supposed to believe that the Mashiach will come any second. But to prohibit a kohen that you can't drink wine because the Beis Hamikdash will be built any second, that we're not gonna do. So, because the solution for this problem is the fact that it's been so many years that we haven't had the Beis Hamikdash, we're not obligated in worrying about that the Beis Hamikdash will be built and he'll be needed to do the service. We have faith, but we don't have to use it as a means that we're not not to drink. Amar Abaye says, "Kaman shasua idna kani chamra." According to who do the Kayanim today drink wine? According to which opinion? In other words, what's the leniency that Kayanim have that they drink wine? Gemara says, Kerebi, it follows Rebbe. Because Rebbe is the one who comes up with this leniency called Takanosai Kalkalasai. The solution is the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, the disruption that we've had until now. That's the solution. We follow Rebbe. Okay, so that's the end of that brisa, and we follow Rebbe. Now comes the new piece. Anshe Mishmar. The Gemara brings a few words of heading from the Mishnah. The Mishnah had said, Anshe Mishmar, V'Anshe Maimad, the people of that week of the Koyanim, and the Anshe Maimad, that's another group of people that they divided the Israelites. They chose representatives for the Israelites and divided them by 24 groups. That means every Israelite has his representative in the Beis Hamikdash for a week. And those representatives were called the Anshe Maimad. They were the people. We have 24 groups of representatives that are constantly in the Beis Hamikdash. They fluctuate. There always are representatives, but they fluctuate. They only have once every 24 weeks a time to be there. And also some of them would daven and pray and fast here in their town. They would hang out in the shul, I guess, and the people that went to Jerusalem, they would hang out by the Beis Hamikdash and they would stand by their sacrifice, and they would be our representatives to stand over the sacrifice. Officially, we all should go to the Beis Hamikdash every day because we want to be with standing by your sacrifice. But we can't. It'd be impossible. And because of that, we have representatives. So those representatives called the Anshe Maimad. The people who are that week's service and the people who are that week's Israelite representatives, they are asurim, they're prohibited l'saper, to take haircuts, or l'chabes, and to wash their clothes. But on Thursday, they would be allowed to because of the honor of Shabbos. So Gemara asks, by Taima, why is it that they are not allowed to take haircuts and launder their clothes? You would think that would be a good reason to do it, to take haircuts. You want to look presentable, right? So if you want to look presentable, so your hair is getting long, so it's now during the week of your Bishmar, let me take a haircut now. No, can't take a haircut. Why not? That's the Gemara's question. My time. Why not? Amar Rabba Bar Bar Chana. So Rabba Bar Bar Chana says in the name of Rabbi Yechanan, Amar Rabbi Yechanan, today, in order, so that they shouldn't enter the week in a disgusting way. Meaning, we want you to prepare. All good things have preparation. If you don't prepare, you will end up entering the Beis Hamikdash in a way that's inappropriate, that's disgusting, that's unkempt. It's just not right. But you won't plan it. If we allow you to enter to take haircuts during the week, then you will end up pushing it off and say, "Oh, I'll take it during the week." It's almost like Yom Tov, the same thing. Why don't we take haircuts during Sukkot or during Pesach? On the one hand, you'll say, "Come on, I want to look nice. It should take the haircut now." Yeah, but if you really want to look nice, then make sure to take it before. You take it on, so that means the first 2 days you're going to be looking ugly. It means you're going to be looking unprepared for the Yom Tov. Every good thing you need to prepare for. So we tell you in advance, you're not going to be allowed to take a haircut during the Yom Tov, during this week that you're doing the service. So this way you get yourself ready before, and you prepare before, and you look nice for the beginning of Yom Tov. So that's why we don't want you to push it off, and you'll wait till during this week that you're doing the service, and you're going to be looking menuval, disgusting, dirty, untidy. Okay, Tana Rabbanan, the rabbis learned, the rabbis taught. Melech mestaper b'chol yom. A king takes a haircut every single day. Kohen Gadol, may Erev Shabbos, Erev Shabbos. A high priest is supposed to take a haircut every single week. From Erev Shabbos to Erev Shabbos means it's once a week. Kohen Hedyot, a regular Kohen. Achas l'shloishim yom, once every 30 days. That's the brisa. The Gemara now says, Melech mistaber b'chol yom my time. What's the reason? Why should a king take a haircut every day? Amar Rabbi Abba Bar Zavda, Rabbi Abba Bar Zavda says, Amar Kra, because the verse says, Melech b'yafyoi techazena einecha. A king in his beauty, our eyes should see, or your eyes, einecha, your eyes should see. So in other words, people should see the king in his beauty. We're not supposed to see the king when he's wearing his pajamas. So the same thing is, we want the king to look at his best anytime anyone will ever see him, which basically means every single day. He should be the most manicured, pedicured, and tidied person. He should look handsome always, whenever anyone sees him. Kohen Gadol me'erev Shabbos lev Shabbos. A Kohen Gadol takes once a week. My timer, what is the reason for that? Why should he take a haircut every single week? Amrav Shmuel bar Yitzchok. Hoyel, since umishmarois miskadshos. Since there's a new mishmar, a new watch of Kohanim that's going to be coming each week, so it's only right that the Kohen Gadol will be properly groomed for the incoming mishmar, and greet them looking really well groomed. Kohen Hedyot, achas l'shloishim yom. Kohen Hedyot, the regular Kohen, takes a haircut once every 30 days. Minolon, how do we know this? How do we know that a regular Kohen has to take a haircut once every 30 days? So it says, Hera minazir. We learn a gezerah shava, which means there's the same word that it says in one place and it says in another place. And that word is pera. It says one place pera, it says another place pera. The other place is nazir. So we connect these two sentences, these two verses, because it has the same word. Pera means long hair. And so it says, Ksiv Hacha, it says over here, V'roisham lo yigalechu, u'pera lo yishalechu. So their head, they shall not shave. And pera lo yishalechu, they should not have long hair. Uksiv Hasa, when it says over there, by Nazir, gadel peras. It shall be holy, his hair. He shall grow the hair of the long hair of his head. So what does this mean? Malahalon shloishim, just like over there, it basically means long hair is 30 days. So afkan shloishim here also, long hair means 30 days. It means he's not supposed to Pera lo yishalechu, we shouldn't have long hair. It means that's 30 days old, 30 days long. Shouldn't have that. So the Gemara says, the Nazir gufei menolan, and how do we know a Nazir is that when it says over there, Pera, it means 30 days. Amar Rav Masna says, you know how we know it? Because Stam Nazirus, Shloshim Yoyim. The typical, the regular, the standard Nazirus, it's always 30 days. So the Gemara says, Minola, and how do we know that? Amar Kra, because the verse says, Yihiyeh, it shall be. Kodosh Yihiyeh Gadel Pera, it says, the hair shall be holy, it shall grow his long hair. So, Yihiyeh Bigamatria Tlosinha. Yihiyeh is the numerical value of 30. So the Gemara understands that that's the source, that the typical the Naziros is 30 days, which basically means the hair grows for 30 days. And that is ultimately taught to the other laws of a regular Kayin is supposed to cut his hair once every 30 days. The Gemara now says, Amar le Rav Papa la Abaye. Rav Papa says to Abaye that we just brought a verse that said that you shouldn't let the Kayin shouldn't let his hair grow more than 30 days. Rav Papa says, V'dilma hachi kamer Achmana. Maybe this is what Hashem is saying. Lo yilirbu klal, it shouldn't grow at all. In other words, don't let it grow, not just 30 days length, but really they should cut their hair just like a Kayin Gadol, just like a Melech every day. Maybe that's what it means. The Rashi says, Ela yistapru b'chol yoyim. They should get a haircut every day. That's what upera means. Don't let it grow 30 days. Rather, you should cut it off every day. No, it's not saying don't let it grow for more than 30 days. And as long as it's 30 days, you can cut it. No. It means don't let it grow altogether for 30 days, and therefore cut it every day. So the Gemara says, Amar Le, so Abaye answered Rav Papa, if it would have said, don't let your hair grow long, then I would have understood it to mean that 30 days is long, and you can't let it grow 30 days. You should cut it every day. But it doesn't say lo yishalichu pera. It says pera lo yishalichu. Don't the long hair, don't let it grow. Now pera lihavi. So the way we understand that verse is that pera, it can be up to it can be long hair, but shluchi lo yishalchu, but you can't let it grow, continue to grow, so to speak. Shluchi, don't let it grow longer. So pera is the maximum. Pera lihavi. It can be pera. So which means that it could last, it could grow for 30 days. But more than that, you can't do any more. Mar says, so if so, even now, maybe we should tell the Kayanim not to let their hair grow. They should take haircuts often. So the barbers would be happy if the Kayanim all have to take haircuts now. So why don't we force the Kayanim to have to take haircuts once every 30 days? Mar says, Dumya deshasuya yaya. It's similar to the prohibition of drinking wine, that mashasuya yayin bisman biyahu daser, just like drinking wine, it's only prohibited when they enter the temple. But otherwise, a Kayin is allowed to drink wine. Shaloi Bizman Bia Shari, if it's not the time that he's entering the temple, he would be allowed to drink wine. So Af Hachanami, here also the same law would apply to the taking haircuts, that it doesn't apply. There's no Beis Hamikdash. A kohen is allowed to grow his hair and doesn't have to cut it. Now, there is a whole debate if this applies to a kohen that's not going to enter the Beis Hamikdash. In other words, let's say it's the time of the Beis Hamikdash. The kohen doesn't plan on going. So would he be still obligated? If it's his week, would he be still obligated to take a haircut every 30 days? He can't have, if he's not planning on entering the Beis Hamikdash. So it seems to be a debate among the commentaries. But that's the Gemara here tells us that the prohibition of drinking wine is definitely only when you enter. The Gemara seems to say that the same law would apply with regard to haircuts. The only thing is, because there's no Beis Hamikdash, so then seemingly everyone would agree that if there's no Beis Hamikdash, then you're not entering. There's no problem. But if there was a Beis Hamikdash, that's when the question would be: if there was a Beis Hamikdash, would you be, if you're not going to enter? In other words, the Gemara seems to say only bisman bia, time that you're entering. Question is, if there's a Beis Hamikdash and you're not planning on entering, is it possible that it would still be usher? There's a Beis Hamikdash, now the Gemara seems to imply no, because it's only when you're going to enter. But if it's your mishmar, so that might be a reason why you would be obligated. I have to look up these the Rishonim. It's a machlekes Rambam and Ravid. It's an argument between the Maimonides and Ravid. To take a look there, why exactly the Ravid would prohibit it. The Gemara seems to that it's only when you're entering. He says that it's a problem because it's your mishmar. Maybe it's rabbinically, the fact that you're part of the mishmar, you're obligated. Have to take a look at the Ravid. Okay, so the Gemara continues and says, well, Tanya, didn't Rebbe teach in a brisa? Rebbe Omer. Rebbe says, Omer ani kainim asur and lishtes yain le'ayla. Kainim are prohibited to drink wine forever. Aval ma es shetakanasai kalkalasai. So, but what should I do? That the solution is the fact that the Beis Hamikdash service has been disrupted for so long. If I'm Abaye, and Abaye says, "Kaman shasu idna kehani chamra," in who, according to which opinion, do the kayanim of today drink wine? The Gemara says it's Rebbe, that they're following the view of Rebbe. So that seems to imply Machlal D'Rabbanan Asri. That implies that the rabbis who argue on Rebbe, they would prohibit drinking wine. And so, according to that, Kainim should also be forbidden to grow their hair. Again, the previous Gemara said that just like wine, only when they enter, they're prohibited, but if they're not entering, they're permitted. So the Gemara then says, but that would fit only with Rebbe's logic that nowadays, because we don't have Beis Hamikdash, you could drink wine. But according to Rebbe, you actually, if you want to compare it to wine, and according to the rabbis, wine a kohen is never allowed to drink. So according to the rabbis, they also need to take haircuts every. According to the rabbis, you'd have to also take haircuts every 30 days. So the Gemara says that my time, what's the reason why they're allowed to drink wine? or why the rabbis say they're not allowed to drink wine. But again, we're talking about according to the view of the rabbis. The rabbis prohibited wine from Kohanim, and what's the reason? Mehera yibane Beis Hamikdash. Immediately, the Beis Hamikdash will be built. And we're going to need a kohen that's fit to do the service. And because of that, if they drink wine, they're going to ruin that potential, that opportunity, that ability. So hacha, but here, after the Mesaper of Yael, he could cut his hair and enter to do, and Ayel go up and do the service. So allowing the kohen to grow his hair is not a problem as much as the drinking wine is, as the Gemara here now tells us about what is the amount of time it takes for the wine to dissipate. So the Gemara says, if so, wine also, after the Gani Port of Ayel, you could sleep a little and then go and do the base of the service in the Beis Hamikdash. The Gemara says, yeah, but it's not the same. I'm sorry. This is part of the question. If so, they could sleep a little. Rami Bar Abba, like what Rami Bar Abba said, Rami Bar Abba, Derech Mil, that Vishena Kolshehi, Mefigan Asayayin, a trip of a mil, or sleep any amount. In other words, if a person walks 1 mil, which is what I said, about 18, it's an argument if it's 18 to 24 minutes, or even a small amount of sleep, it dissipates the wine. So you're thinking I say yayin. So you can do the same thing. So you tell me you'll take a haircut right away and go do the service. You could also go to sleep for a second, or you could take a walk, 24 minutes, 18 minutes. Lav mi yitmar Allah. Didn't we learn on that? The Gemara says, that only works if you drank only a revius, which is revius is an argument how big it is. It's somewhere around 3 ounces, 3 to 5 ounces, somewhere in that ballpark. If a person drank more than a revius, then kolshkein shederach matridasai, then the travel actually disturbs him. V'shena v'shakarta, and sleep actually somehow intensifies makes him more drunk, and so there's no immediate way to get rid of the wine. So wine is different than a haircut. A haircut, you take a haircut to use the machine or something and shave it off. It's 5 minutes, you're all done. But the drinking wine, especially if you drink more than a revius, it's a big problem. If you drink more than a few ounces, then it doesn't just come off right away. Ravashi says, Shesuye yayin de machali avoida gozru b'hurabanan. When a person drinks wine, he actually invalidates, he ruins the apostles, the service in the temple. So it's machale avoida, it ruins it. It's machalal the avoida. It mundanes the avoida, ruins it. And therefore, Gazru Barabanan, the rabbis prohibited drinking wine nowadays. Excuse me. Through a roish, but letting one's hair grow, it won't invalidate the temple service. So, like Gazru Barabanan, the rabbis did not prohibit it. So the prohibition of wine would be different than the prohibition of taking a haircut. And therefore, if you see a kohen long hair, can't really tell him off because there's no problem. They're allowed to grow their hair. All right, so they'll take a haircut when Mashiach comes, when the Beis Hamikdash is rebuilt. Take a haircut right away, or even if they did the avodah, it doesn't ruin it. But drunk, if you see a kohen drunk, then you could tell him, what are you going to do if the Beis Hamikdash is rebuilt right now? The only thing is, he could answer you, I follow Rebbe. Rebbe says that takonosei kalkolosei. that we don't have to be worried, even though we have to trust that it's going to happen soon, but we don't have to worry that we're going to be needed to serve at the Beis Hamikdash. The next Gemara questions this and says,
If he's really drunk, he might not remember that.
Oh, well, you won't tell him off because you know it. So the next Gemara continues and says that it's not so simple. The Gemara says, Meisvei, they asked a contradiction. Be'elu she'ein b'misa. These get the death penalty. Doesn't mean they get a death penalty by the court. It means that by heaven. They get a death penalty by heaven. Shisuya yayin. Uprue roish. People who drink wine or have long hair and they do the service, they are deserving of Misa bidei shamayim, death by the hands of heaven. And it mentions over there both Suya Yayin. It says Veloy Samusu, right? Remember the pasuk. It says, and they shouldn't die if which refers to Misa bidei shamayim. And the same thing applies with regard to Pruei Rosh, letting one's hair grow long. So the Gemara says, Bishlem Suya Yayin, it's good. The drinking wine, I understand. The Head Yaksivu, it says clearly, Yayin v'Sheichar Ateish, don't drink wine or Sheichar, don't drink, in order that you don't die. And so it says over there clearly about drinking. Ella Pruei Rosh Minalman. So where do we know about not letting your hair grow long? As it says, says they should not shave their heads. They should not grow long hair. And it says, no kayin should drink wine when they come to the inner courtyard. And we compare a person who has long hair to drinking wine. So we see there's a comparison there that just like drinking wine is liable for the death penalty in the hands of heaven, so also letting one's hair grow long is also punishable by death by heaven. And from that we could say that just like wine, they do the service, they ruin they disqualify the avodah. Also, person whose hair grows long, kain whose hair grows long, also disqualifies the service, and that would ruin Rav Ashi's distinction and his way of answering this problem, which would ultimately mean kainim would not be allowed to take care, would be obligated to take haircuts every month. The Gemara answers, "Loy, it's not so." It says ki iskish lemisu diskish. They are compared, but it's only with regard to the death penalty. But they are not compared when it comes to ruining the service and disqualifying the service. Person does it with long hair, it doesn't ruin it. Okay, we're gonna stop there. I want to wish you all a very good Shabbos. Zay gesund, everyone.
Thank you, Rabbi. Good Shabbos, everybody.